There's also something about the culture of like, no pain, no gain, push a little harder. I wonder if this brings up a question I'm sure you get that often, which is what's the best dose and duration for cold exposure? Because everyone's wanting some formula.
Right. But when we see ourselves as a machine, it's easy
Mhm.
to see, well, what buttons do I need to press, right? How much fuel do I need to put into the compressor so that it will
Mhm.
pump out X, Y, Z? And ultimately, if you're looking for this, I understand. I totally get it. I don't want to be doing more than I have to. If I can do half as much and get twice the benefit, give me that. Here's the question I always come back with when I hear this question: what is the minimal effective dose? Right. So how much weight do I need to lift?
Hmm.
And it's always like, oh, okay, what does that even mean? How much weight do I need to lift to get stronger? Well, it depends on you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. It depends because I'll go to the gym and I've been going to the gym quite some time. Of course, I used to work at the university. So you see a lot of gym bros
Hmm.
and you see a lot of kids that are, skin and bones and they're looking to be muscly and they should be picking up the 10-pound dumbbells to do curls with because that is actually more appropriate. That's going to give you a much better,
Mm.
you're going to actually be able to do the full contraction, range of motion. All those things would be better if you just pick up the 10s. But their favorite bodybuilder is picking up the 30s. And so
Yeah.
they're going into it thinking, well, the minimum effective dose is XYZ. And even in the world of muscle building and things like that, we talk about how many reps you should do, right? And I get that because these are
Right.
great rules of thumbs. I don't have anything against it until we get so formulaic that we think that if I don't do this, then I don't get any benefits. And
Mm.
if you would have thought that when you were telling me the story about being in the creek, right? It was colder
Mhm.
that day, but you were feeling a certain way. If you would have just, white knuckled it through and maybe quite literally for you, right? White knuckling, but
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you would have just white knuckled it, right? And just said, well, the only way I'm going to get any benefit in this is if I spend XYZ, right? 11 minutes at 32 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit or all these things that there's these, like the Soberg principle and all these other things that,
Mm.
that you hear about. And I don't have anything wrong with us trying to figure out what a great number of time. I get it, but we are not computers. We're not
Yeah.
machines. And so each day it's going to be different. And ultimately, when we think about what the minimum effective dose is, we're most of the time that's looking at what is the minimum effective dose for XYZ result. Well, okay.
Mm.
So if you look at the research on norepinephrine, you start as, it's the colder it is, the less duration you need,
Right.
right?
So if it's like
And
2
and
degrees
so
Celsius or
right.
30,
And
yeah.
so it's going to adjust depending on the temperature we're in. Now, in my book, I do have, okay, so for everybody that's like, man, I was hoping to, okay, I do have an explanation of how to make this work for you, right?
Mm.
Temperature is the intensity in this case. So temperature would be maybe the weight that you're lifting,
Mhm.
and then the duration would be your reps, right? So
Yes.
so I do work this out in a way in the book because I understand it. I want this too, right? I would love to know. But in reality, when
Mhm.
it comes to cold training, I hesitate to say this is the exact formula, other than a person should go into the cold each time they do it and always be present and
Yeah.
get out before you feel bad. You always want to get out feeling good. And then if you do that long enough and consistently enough, it doesn't really matter how you got there because going with the muscle building thing. So
Mm.
if you go to like Olympics or maybe a bodybuilding show or something like that, if there was a formula that said this is
Mm.
how often you should run or this is how fast or this is how many steps you should take or how many reps, then all a person would have to do is just follow that formula and then they win, right? But we are all different biologically and physiologically. So it really, I mean, I think that's an example of how it's going to vary
Yeah.
from person to person. You get stories about some people and their training is totally different
Yeah.
than the other person and they're neck and neck. But it's like, well, if we had some kind of formula that you just apply to all humans, I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I want that. It's just that in my experience in just every aspect of being a human, I've never seen anything that's like, okay, across the board, this many minutes. I mean, when we're getting down to
Mhm.
just this many minutes per week,
Right.
or I think that is you're missing a lot. But the answer to the question of what is the minimum dose is always going to be another question of who are you, what are
Yeah.
you, you know, how long have you trained, what have you been doing? It's all about progression safely
Yeah.
as opposed to just hit this bar and you're done.
Right. So you're also naming adaptation, like proper adaptation, letting the body adapt
Right.
based on each person's body, their goals. But I think we always want the quick fix. Like if I can
Oh, I
only
do too.
get to
I'm the same way.
I mean that's the thing that I heard earlier on was like 2 minutes you get all the benefits, and if it's cold enough closer to zero, 2 minutes you're done, you get everything. And I was like, well, why stay 2.5 minutes if I get all the benefits in 2 minutes? But then again, I didn't understand it at the time fully. Like, wait a minute, but it depends how my body is, like how cold it is. What is it? Is it an ice bath? Is it in the river? Is it a shower? Is it you talk also about walking like in cold weather, like there's many ways of cold exposure. Hello there, and thank you so much for stopping by this channel. I hope you find this content useful, and if you do, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It will really help me to reach to more people and keep this content going. Here we are journeying together, and let's see where this takes us.